The bridge of the ESS Dauntless fell silent as the transmission ended. Admiral Jiwoo Park stood motionless, her weathered face showing no emotion as she took in the news. The Void Dominion had broken through the Orion defense line. The Centaurians had left their colonies without a fight. The Proxima Alliance had scattered their ships. The powerful Arcturus Confederacy had asked for peace. "They're all running," Lieutenant Do-hyun Kim said, breaking the silence. "Every single allied species is retreating." Admiral Park nodded slowly, her eyes fixed on the screen showing the mass escape of ships from the outer systems. "Get me Earth. Command." When General Taehyun Cho's face appeared on screen, Park didn't waste time. "General, you've seen the reports?" "I have," Cho replied with a grim look. "The Galactic Concord is officially asking for complete evacuation of all human worlds." "And what does Earth Command say to that request?" A small smile crossed Cho's face. "We say that humanity doesn't leave its home." Admiral Park returned the smile. "Then we agree. Prepare the fleet. If all others flee, humanity will stand and fight." The news spread quickly through Earth's colonies. Most alien species had already begun to leave, their massive ships jumping into hyperspace with little warning. The Galactic Concord Embassy on Luna was nearly empty now, with only a few diplomats remaining to plead with human leaders. "You don't understand what you're facing," said Ambassador Minjae, his tall frame hunched with worry as he addressed the United Earth Defense Council. "The Void has consumed 1,000 worlds. No one has ever successfully fought them." "Perhaps no one has ever truly tried," replied Defense Minister Soo Bin-yoon. "Humanity has faced extinction before. We did not survive by running." At Ganymede Station, the largest human military base in the outer system, Commander Heejin Bae watched as the last alien ships disappeared from her sensors. The Arcturians had been allies for 15 years, helping humans develop their first faster-than-light drives. Now they were gone without even saying goodbye. "Should we follow them, Commander?" asked her second-in-command. Heejin shook her head. "We have our orders. Prepare the station's defenses. We stand with Earth." Back on Earth, panic began to spread among some of the population. News feeds showed the mass exodus of alien species, and fear is contagious. In Seoul, Tokyo, New York, and Lagos, some people began to pack their belongings, hoping to secure passage on the few outbound civilian ships still operating. But for every person who wished to flee, there were 10 more who stepped forward to help. Former soldiers rejoined their units. Civilian engineers volunteered to convert their factories for military production. Students left their classes to help build shelters. In orbit above Mars, Admiral Park gathered the human fleet. It was small compared to what the Galactic Concord had fielded before retreating. Just 73 warships of various sizes and nearly 200 converted civilian vessels. Not enough to win a conventional battle, but Park had no intention of fighting conventionally. "The Void expects us to either surrender or run," she told her captains during their briefing. "Their entire strategy depends on fear. They've never faced an enemy who refused to be afraid." Lieutenant Kim raised his hand. "Admiral, their ships outgun ours by at least 3-1. How can we possibly stop them?" "By changing the rules," Park replied. She activated the holographic display showing the Sol system. "We won't meet them in open space where their superior firepower gives them the advantage. Instead, we'll draw them in toward Earth. We'll use the gravity wells of our planets, the radiation belts, the asteroid fields, everything we have as weapons." The plan was dangerous. It meant allowing the Void to penetrate deep into the solar system. But it also played to humanity's strengths, knowledge of their home territory and the willingness to take risks. As the meeting ended, one of the younger captains asked the question everyone was thinking. "What if we fail?" Admiral Park looked at each face in turn before answering. "Then we will have died as humans should, facing our enemy, protecting our home. But we will not fail. The Void believes we are like the others, that we will break before their advance. They are wrong. Where others fled, we will stand. Where others surrendered, we will fight." The first Void Scouts appeared at the edge of the solar system 3 days later. Dark ships almost invisible against the blackness of space, moving with unnatural precision. The human fleet went dark, hiding their signatures as they prepared for battle. The waiting had ended. Humanity's test had begun. Remember to use simple, basic English and write in third-person style for this section. Keep it under 800 words, make it interesting, and don't include headings. The cavernous hangar of Luna. Base hummed with activity as engineers and technicians swarmed over mining vessels. Dr. Min-hee Song wiped sweat from her brow as she adjusted the makeshift weapon systems. These mining lasers were never meant for fighting, she explained to Colonel Junyo Lee. But I've changed them to focus their energy. They won't be as good as military weapons, but they'll break through void shields if we get close enough. Lee nodded, impressed. And how many ships can you change? All of them, Min-hee replied with firm resolve. Every mining rig, every transport, every shuttle. If it can fly, we're arming it. Across the solar system, humanity prepared. Space stations became fortresses. Civilian ships became warships. A species that had known division for thousands of years united against an outside threat. In the war room beneath Geneva, Admiral Park addressed the United Earth Defense Council. The Void expects us to run like the others. Their whole plan is based on fear. No species has ever stood against them. Her eyes shone. They've never faced humans before. The plan was bold. Instead of meeting the Void in open battle, humanity would draw them into the solar system and attack from hidden positions. Mines disguised as space debris were placed in key areas. Weapon platforms were hidden inside hollowed-out asteroids. Civilian ships acted as bait to lure Void scouts into traps. On Mars Colony, Governor Jaewon Ryu organized the evacuation of non-essential personnel. We need to move all civilians to Earth, he told his staff. Mars will become a military zone. But not everyone wanted to leave. This is our home too, said Yoon-ji Han, leader of the Martian Miners Union. We know these tunnels better than anyone. We can help fight. After some debate, a compromise was reached. Those who wished to leave could go to Earth. Those who chose to stay would form a resistance force, ready to strike from the vast tunnel networks beneath the Martian surface if the Void landed. At the Jupiter shipyards, work continued day and night. Chief Engineer Sun Woo Kang hadn't slept in 3 days, but his hands remained steady as he installed the new shield generators on what had once been a luxury liner. How's it coming? Asked Captain Minji Lee, the ship's new commander. She won't win any beauty contest, Sun Woo replied, patting the hull. But she'll fight. The ship had been renamed Defiance, and her story was the same across the fleet. Cruise ships, cargo haulers, scientific vessels, all transformed for war. On Earth, cities prepared for possible attack. Old bunkers from past wars were reopened. New shelters were dug. Food and supplies were stored. In schools, children practiced emergency drills, but preparation meant more than just physical defenses. Humanity needed information about their enemy. We need to capture one of their ships, Admiral Park told her strike team. We need to understand how they think, how they fight. Commander Ji-hoon Choi led the mission. His team used a damaged human, transport as bait, pretending to be easy prey for a Void scout ship. When the black ship approached, they sprung their trap. EMP charges disabled the Void vessel's engines. Boarding parties cut through the hull. The fight inside was fierce. The Void fighters were tall, ghostly beings that seemed to shift between solid and gas. Standard weapons passed through them without effect. 3 humans died before they discovered that energy weapons could hurt the creatures. In the end, they secured the ship and brought it back to a hidden base in the asteroid belt. Scientists began to study it immediately. Dr. Min-hee Song made the first breakthrough. They don't use technology like we do, she reported to Admiral Park. Their ships are partly alive, partly machine, and they're powered by fear. Fear? Park asked. Yes, they feed on it. That's why they use terror tactics. When other species flee in panic, they literally grow stronger. This discovery changed everything. If the Void fed on fear, then courage was a weapon. Admiral Park called a meeting of all fleet commanders. We now understand our enemy, she told them. The void has conquered 1,000 worlds because those worlds were afraid. We will not be afraid. We will be angry. A new message was broadcast throughout human space. Stand firm, show no fear, trust your training. As the days passed, the void probed deeper into the solar system. Small battles flared at Neptune, then Uranus, then Saturn. Each time, human forces struck hard and withdrew, refusing to be drawn into major engagements. They were saving their strength for the real fight. In her quarters aboard the flagship Dauntless, Admiral Park studied the latest reports. The Void main fleet was approaching Jupiter. Soon they would reach Mars, then Earth. The time for skirmishes was ending. The time for war was beginning. She touched the old paper photo of her family she kept by her bed. "We will not run," she whispered. "This is our home." The Void Dominion entered the Sol system with overwhelming force, a massive fleet of black ships that blocked out the stars. They met no resistance at the edge of the system, no defense at Neptune's orbit. Their sensors detected the mass evacuation of Earth's space stations, seemingly confirming that humans, too, would run rather than fight. They were wrong. As the Void fleet passed Mars, thousands of mines disguised as space junk activated. At the same time, the evacuated stations revealed themselves as armed fortresses, and from behind Deimos, Mars's small moon, Admiral Park led the attack. "All ships engage as planned," she ordered calmly. "Remember your training. Remember Earth." The battle was fierce and quick. Humanity's ships were outgunned and outnumbered, but they fought with cleverness and desperation. Where the Void expected surrender, they found fury. Where they anticipated fear, they encountered rage. The viewing deck of the Void command ship shook as another explosion flashed against its shields. The Void commander, a being of shadow and malice, turned to its lieutenant. "These humans, they cannot win. Why do they resist?" On the bridge of her heavily damaged flagship, Admiral Park ordered another attack run, even as warning alarms sounded around her. "Because," she whispered to herself, "this is our home." The human fleet moved with unexpected speed and coordination. Mining ships, now armed with powerful lasers, darted between the massive Void warships, firing at weak points identified by Dr. Song's research team. Civilian transports, loaded with explosives, rammed into Void ships whose shields had fallen. In orbit around Mars, Colonel Junho Lee commanded the orbital defense platforms. "Wait until they're in range," he told his gunners. "Make every shot count." The Void ships advanced, confident in their superior firepower. When they came within range of Mars, Lee gave the order. Fire. Massive energy beams lanced out from hidden installations on Phobos and Deimos. 3 Void destroyers exploded immediately. 2 more spun out of control, their engines dead. The Void commander couldn't understand what was happening. No species had ever caused such damage to their fleet. Their sensors showed the humans were fighting with primitive technology, yet somehow they were effective. It made no sense. "Launch the fighters," the commander ordered. "Overwhelm them with numbers." Thousands of small Void craft poured from the larger ships, racing toward the human fleet. This tactic had broken the will of countless civilizations before. The sight of endless enemies usually caused panic and retreat. But Admiral Park was ready. "Spring the trap," she ordered. From hiding places in the asteroid belt, hundreds of small human fighters emerged. They had been waiting for this moment, conserving fuel and weapons. Now they attacked the Void fighters from behind while the main fleet engaged from the front. Lieutenant Do-Yun Kim led one of these fighter squadrons. "Red Squad, follow me," he called over the comm. "Attack pattern Delta." His fighters moved in. Perfect formation, targeting the engines of the Void craft. They had learned that a direct hit to the propulsion system caused a chain reaction that could destroy the alien vessels. The space around Mars became a chaotic battlefield of explosions, energy beams and debris. Both sides took heavy losses, but the humans fought with a coordination the Void had never encountered. On Earth, people watched the battle through telescopes and live feeds from military satellites. They saw their fleet, vastly outnumbered, holding the line around Mars. They saw their fighters, smaller and less advanced, outmaneuvering the enemy. They saw hope. After 6 hours of intense fighting, the Void fleet began to pull back. They had lost a quarter of their ships, and they still hadn't reached Earth. Something was wrong with these humans. They didn't break. They didn't run. In the Sci Command Center beneath Geneva, General Taehyun Cho received the report from Admiral Park. "The enemy is retreating to the outer system, General. We've held Mars." Cheers erupted around the room, but Cho raised his hand for silence. "This is only the beginning," he said. "They'll be back and in greater numbers." Aboard the Dauntless, Admiral Park assessed the damage to her fleet. They had lost 37 ships and thousands of crew members. The survivors were exhausted, their vessels damaged. But they had done what no other species had done. They had forced the Void to retreat. "Get me a secure channel to Luna Base," Park ordered. "We need to speak with Dr. Song immediately." The Admiral had noticed something during the battle. When her ships fought most fiercely, when they showed no fear but only determination, the Void ships seemed to weaken. If Dr. Song was right about the Void feeding on fear, then perhaps courage didn't just prevent them from growing stronger, it might actually make them weaker. As the human fleet regrouped around Mars, news of their victory spread throughout the solar system, and beyond that, through secret channels, it reached the refugee fleets of the species who had fled. Humanity had stood against the Void, and the Void had blinked first. Word spread quickly through refugee outposts across the galaxy. Humanity had survived the first Void attack, not only survived but dealt serious damage. Species that had run began to watch with interest. Some even returned. In the War Council on Luna Base, Admiral Park greeted the unexpected allies. 3 months ago you told us resistance was useless, she reminded the Arcturian ambassador. Ambassador Ji-Sung Kang lowered his eyes. "We were wrong. Your species has shown us something we had forgotten. Courage." The combined human-alien fleet that gathered in the following weeks was small compared to the Void Armada, but it had something the enemy couldn't fight against. Hope, Doctor. Min Hee-song's research team had made important discoveries by studying captured Void technology. "Their ships are powered by fear," she explained during the council meeting. "They literally harvest terror from conquered populations. That's why their strategy relies on panic and flight." Admiral Park's plan was bold. A direct attack on the HFY Void command ship. "They've never faced a species that doesn't fear them," she said. "It's time to show them what that means." The plan required perfect timing. Human ships would attack the Void fleet near Jupiter, drawing their attention. Meanwhile, a small strike team would infiltrate the Void command ship and plant devices designed by Dr. Song, courage amplifiers that would broadcast human emotions of bravery and defiance. Commander Ji-Hoon Choi volunteered to lead the strike team. "My team can get it done, Admiral. We've studied their ship designs from the scout vessel we captured. The mission was dangerous. The strike team would need to get close to the Void command ship without being detected, board it, fight their way to the central chamber, and plant the devices before escaping. If you succeed," Admiral Park told them, "you may change the course of this war. If you fail, we won't fail," Ji-Hoon said simply. 2 days later, the human fleet moved into position. The Void had regrouped at Jupiter, absorbing reinforcements from their empire. Their ships now numbered in the thousands. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of the Dauntless looking at the tactical display. "All ships prepare for jump. Remember, we're not trying to win this battle. We just need to hold their attention long. Enough for the strike team to complete their mission." The human fleet jumped into the space near Jupiter, immediately opening fire on the Void ships. The battle began quickly, with the Void responding with overwhelming force. While the main battle raged, Commander Ji-Hoon's strike team approached the Void command ship in a captured scout vessel. They transmitted Void identification codes, holding their breath as they waited for a response. "We're cleared to dock," Lieutenant Haejin Kwan reported, relief in her voice. "They think we're one of theirs." Once aboard, the team moved quickly through the strange, shifting corridors of the Void ship. The interior seemed to change as they watched, walls flowing like liquid shadow. They encountered Void soldiers twice, defeating them with energy weapons. "We're approaching the central chamber," Ji-Hoon reported back to Admiral Park, "beginning Phase 2. In the main battle, the human fleet was taking heavy losses. The Dauntless shook as another void beam struck its shields. Shields at 30%, Lieutenant Kim reported. "We can't take much more of this, Admiral." "We hold," Park said firmly. "Give the strike team time." Inside the Void command ship, Ji-hoon's team reached the central chamber, a massive space filled with swirling darkness. At the center floated a pulsing core of black energy. "That's their fear collector," Dr. Song said over the comm. "Place the devices around it equally spaced." As they worked, they were discovered. Void soldiers poured into the chamber from all sides. The team formed a defensive circle, fighting desperately as they continued to place the devices. "Last one in position," Heijin called. Then she cried out as a void weapon struck her arm. "Activate them now," Ji-hoon ordered, firing at the approaching enemies. Dr. Song, monitoring from Luna Base, activated the courage amplifiers. The devices lit up, emitting a golden light that spread through the chamber. The effect was immediate. The void soldiers recoiled, their shadowy forms distorting. The pulsing core at the center began to shrink, contracting as if in pain. Throughout the void fleet, confusion spread. Their ships began to lose power, their weapons firing less frequently. "It's working," Admiral Park exclaimed, watching the energy readings from the void fleet drop. "All ships, press the attack." The human fleet surged forward, targeting void ships that showed signs of weakness. For the first time, the void began to retreat, in disarray. On the void command ship, Ji-hoon gathered his wounded team. "Mission complete, let's get out of here." As they fought their way back to their ship, the void command ship began to break apart around them, unable to maintain its structure without the energy of fear to sustain it. The strike team barely escaped, their ship launching just as the void command vessel collapsed in on itself. Throughout the battle zone, void ships were jumping away, fleeing the human fleet. It was an unprecedented victory. Admiral Park stood on her bridge, tears in her eyes as she watched the enemy retreat. "Send word to Earth," she said. "Tell them the tide has turned." The final battle for Earth darkened the skies. Void reinforcements poured through a massive portal above the North Atlantic, while humanity's last defense fleet rose to meet them. Admiral Park's ship, heavily damaged but still fighting, pushed through the void formation toward the portal generator. "All ships focus fire on their flanks. We need a path." The human-alien alliance fought with desperate courage, but the void numbers seemed endless. Victory looked impossible, until Admiral Park made her decision. "This is Admiral Ji-woo Park. To all Earth forces," she broadcast. "I'm taking the Dauntless into their portal generator. Continue the fight. Show them humanity's fire and fury." The Dauntless, engines glowing brightly, sped toward the massive void structure. Defense weapons fired constantly, clearing a path through smaller enemy ships. As void beams hit her shields, Park sent one final message. "Earth Command, this is Park. Tell our children we did not run." We answered. The Dauntless crashed into the portal generator. The resulting explosion collapsed the void portal, cutting off their reinforcements. Without leadership and facing a suddenly energized enemy, the remaining void ships began to retreat. On Earth, people came out from shelters to see the debris of battle burning through the atmosphere like falling stars, a funeral display for the brave and a signal of hope for the future. The void attack had come with little warning. 3 days after their retreat from Jupiter, they had returned with a force twice as large as before. They had opened a massive portal directly above Earth, bypassing the outer system defenses. General Taehyun Cho had mobilized Earth's final reserves. Every ship that could fly, every weapon that could fire, every soldier who could fight, all were called to action. Dr. Min-hee Song had developed new weapons based on her research. "The courage amplifiers worked once," she told the War Council. "But the Void has adapted. They've found a way to shield themselves." The situation looked grim. The Void portal allowed them to bring endless reinforcements from their home dimension. As long as it remained open, Earth could not win. "We need to close that portal," Admiral Park said. "Everything depends on it." The battle began at dawn. The Void descended from the sky like a storm, their black ships blocking the sun. Earth's Combined fleet rose to meet them, weapons blazing. Lieutenant Do-hyun Kim led a fighter squadron against the first wave. "Stay in formation," he ordered. "Target their engines, just like we practiced." His fighters darted between the massive void, ships firing at vulnerable points. But for every void ship they damaged, 3 more came through the portal. On the ground, Colonel Jun-Ho Lee commanded the planetary defense batteries. Massive energy beams shot upward from installations around the globe, striking void ships and bringing them down. The sky filled with the burning wreckage of ships from both sides. Aboard the Dauntless, Admiral Park watched the battle unfold with growing concern. Earth was fighting bravely, but they were being overwhelmed by numbers. "Sensors are detecting a power source at the center of the portal," Lieutenant Hae-jin Kwan reported. "It appears to be the generator sustaining the connection." Park studied the readings. The generator was protected by the heaviest concentration of void ships. No conventional attack could reach it. She made her decision. "Clear the bridge, Hui," she ordered. "All personnel to escape pods." Lieutenant Kim looked up in shock. "Admiral?" "That's an order, Lieutenant. I'm taking the ship in myself." As the bridge crew reluctantly headed for the escape pods, Park opened a channel to Earth Command. "General Cho, I need a path to the portal generator. Can your ground batteries provide cover?" "We'll give you everything we've got, Admiral," Cho replied. "But, you know this is a one-way trip." "I know," Park said simply. The Dauntless turned toward the portal, its engines pushing to full power. Ground batteries concentrated their fire, clearing space ahead of the flagship. Fighter squadrons formed up around it, protecting its flanks. The Void sensed the danger and moved to intercept, but they were too late. The Dauntless had built up too much speed. In her final moments, Admiral Park thought of Earth, of blue skies and green forests, of crowded cities and quiet villages, of all the things worth protecting. She thought of humanity, stubborn, courageous humanity, the species that refused to give up when all others fled. The impact was blinding. The Dauntless, its hull already breached in dozens of places, collided with the portal generator at near relativistic speed. The explosion rippled outward, consuming the generator and collapsing the portal in a shockwave of energy. Cut off from their reinforcements and their command structure, the remaining void ships fell into disarray. Some continued to fight, but many fled, jumping away to the outer system and beyond. 1 year later, at the founding of the new Galactic Defense Alliance, General Tae-hyun Cho unveiled a memorial bearing the words of Admiral Park. All others fled, but humanity answered with fire and fury. And across the galaxy, former refugees returning to their homes told stories of the humans, the species that taught the stars how to fight back.